Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trace Strelka. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. Let us get this hour going with Adam. Adam, 35 days until the start of the 2023 UCF football season. Are you over July now? You feeling it? We're just a couple of days away until players report.
This has been the longest summer ever. I think we've been spoiled because the last couple of summers for UCF has been so much change and news breaking and different stuff. This feels like the longest summer ever. I can't wait until that calendar flips to August and I can watch you record 10 seconds of a quarterback throwing the ball 4 feet.
Yeah, we'll have warm-ups and all of that starting next week. Breaking news this Thursday, to quote Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, they're back. Hey, Colorado, that other black and gold team, back in the Big 12. Brett Yormark, no off days for him. He remains active. What do you make of this? Colorado, for me, that's a road game. That's a home game. I have family to stay with when I'm out there at Boulder.
Yeah, this feels like a Sons of UCF decision. Mike's finally got a place that he's willing to visit. You've got a de facto home game, so I feel like this is a win-win for the Suns. Look, here's the deal: like, is Colorado the most powerful football program in the world the last couple of decades? Not really. I think there's some upswing with Deion Sanders being there and what he's bringing, hopefully, to Colorado, and how he may change that program around. But this is a chess not checkers move, right? This is Brett Yormark basically checkmating the Pac-12 and saying, all right, we're taking one of your schools, and now there's rumors that others are following, right? So this is Brett Yormark making that power move. He got to the table first and got his TV deal, and now he's capitalizing on the fact that Pac-12 can't figure that out, and he's going to grab these schools. Does Colorado move the needle? Is it like going to be, oh my goodness, that's game changing? Colorado's here? Probably not. But this is a chess not checkers. Who's next, right? There's rumors about Oregon. There's rumors about Washington. There's rumors about UConn, Arizona, right? So I think this is a chess not checker situation. It's interesting, though. I do think one thing we should revisit at some point, though, is Deion has done a really nice job at recruiting this state of Florida. Now being in our conference, how does that battle step in the future? He's going to be recruiting against us in the same conference in our state. He's done a pretty nice job with his Florida ties. I think that might be interesting to look at. But I think this is just the first of a domino to fall. All Brett Yormark needed was one. He got the one, and now we'll see who's next.
Yeah, published reports today indicate Colorado's AD saying that Deion wants to recruit in Texas and in Florida. So UCF's geography certainly helping matters. By the way, my nephew goes to the University of Colorado at Boulder, so we've been texting this afternoon. He says, you guys are going to kill us. He goes, but if we win, referring to Colorado, he says, Uncle, you'll never hear the end of it. That I know is true. And likewise, I would never stop rubbing that in if UCF takes care of business in Boulder or in welcoming Colorado. Now, UCF on a bit of an island, though, Adam, right? I mean, I'm not a big fan of bringing UConn into the Big 12, but look up that East Coast and what do you see? West Virginia and Cincinnati and a lot of schools out west.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, I think the conversation has been that the Big 12 is now becoming a national conference. I think Colorado's president said that they consider themselves a national brand, joining a national conference across 3 time zones. I know West Virginia is obviously in the Eastern time zone, so they already had that figured out, but we kind of give them that South geography, but there's no natural rival. Every trip's going to be a trip, literally. And so you wonder, is there something closer? Again, it's not UConn. You're not hearing chatter about anybody closer like a Memphis. So I think for the foreseeable future, UCF better figure out their frequent flyer miles and make sure that they can reserve some seats on there.
Travel budget going up. Coach Malzahn at Big 12 Media Days talking about how there are going to be road trips in which the team flies home and lands when the sun is coming up in Orlando. But imagine what it's going to be for the other sports. I mean, we make fun of USC, UCLA playing Maryland in softball or a volleyball match. Now it's UCF's going to be going to BYU and Boulder. I know it's just a couple of hours by plane, but it's still disruptive to a routine for an athlete to be on flights for that long. And, they're not all going to be chartered. Football will get the chartered flights, but do we know that all sports are going to start off getting chartered flights? I don't think so.
I wouldn't think so, but I have no inside knowledge on this. What's interesting is I believe if the rumors are correct, Colorado is going to walk into the conference in 2024 with a full revenue share, where UCF and the other 3 schools that came with them aren't eligible for that. And there's sort of a tiered progression to get to that. So
that doesn't seem fair.
It doesn't, but I mean, obviously Brett's aggressively trying to get teams into the conference. And if that's one selling point to say, hey, I'm gonna give you X share. But if Washington and Oregon show up, now we've got really interesting travel, right? Oregon and Washington to UCF is gonna be interesting. But again, I think this is obviously the first of probably a couple different moves. Yormark's been quoted as saying he wants to be around that 14 mark from a football standpoint. So really that's one more. So who is that school? Who's first in line? I guess we'll see how the dominoes fall, but Pac-12 egg all over their face. I mean, they had years to figure this out. It was 2021, Trace, when the rumors were that the Big 12 and the Pac-12 were talking. The Big 12 proposed a merger. Let's merge. Let's make one big power conference. And the Pac-12 was like, nah, we're good. We don't need you. And 24 months later, here we are, where we're now essentially talking to any school we want in the Pac-12 and having conversations.
If you're a believer in momentum, Brett Yormark and the Big 12 certainly have it. How advantageous was it for him to ink that TV deal, the TV deals that he did when he did, right? That's just so critical. He's got something the Pac-12 doesn't with those TV deals.
Yeah, the 30 for 30 on the demise of the Pac-12 will probably start with a screenshot of Brett Yormark signing a contract with ESPN and Fox executives in the room, right? Because that really set that table. So, at this point where we are as a sports consuming society, getting those TV contracts really is the lifeblood of business. NBA is doing it, NFL does it, and Brett Yormark having the foresight to figure that out early on. Again, when that 30 for 30 rolls out, I think that's going to be one of the seminal scenes is Yormark signing that contract.
Well, let's continue this conversation about the Big 12 with our first guest of the evening, Josh Neighbors. He has covered the Big 12 for a number of years in a number of formats. Now, host of the NW Pod 365. What do we got on? Oh, I like that shirt, Josh.
UCF long sleeve shirt, boys. How about that?
I like this already. I like this guy already.
That is good. Josh, tell us where to find your coverage right off the top, because UCF fans are trying to seek out Big 12 information everywhere. Let's start off with that. Where can folks find you and talk about the content you produce?
I am part of the wonderful 365 Sports Network. Crystal Ball College Football is the YouTube channel. You can find the podcast Neighborhood Watch wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. On Twitter, NW Pod 365. Also, Josh Neighbors. You all have it correct down there. Those are all of the places that you all can find me. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you and talking about the Big 12. What a conference. What a time.
By the way, Adam, little inside stuff. We tried to book Josh last week, but Josh, he was going to see Oppenheimer. I got to give the guy a break. Josh, how was the movie?
It was, by the way, that is Christopher Nolan's best film. And aren't you all glad that it worked out this way? Because this is kind of the right time to be having me on. So thanks, Christopher Nolan. Thank you.
Your reaction now to this big news, Colorado back.
Yeah. So it makes sense of the first school back. And I have to shout out Andrew Marchand, New York Post. He had this one well before anybody else. He said Colorado is a school to watch. It made sense. They were the quietest. And I will tell you all this. Brett Yormark, from what I can tell, this is the sneaky part about this. He got them at a full price. $31.7 million is what everybody else in the remaining members will be making, and he got them in for that price. That is him getting that pro rata clause to ESPN. That's also him getting Fox, who didn't have one, to say full price, we'll pay for it. It's the first big kind of chip away at the Pac-12, and we know this for a fact. The Big 12, the Pac-12 are in conflict when it comes to kind of where you are in the television space. They are direct competitors. I've made basically every analogy in the book. You want to call one Wendy's, you want to call one Arby's, you want to call one Taco Bell, Chick-fil-A, whatever it is. You are competing for mouths. You are competing for those TV dollars. You are not the Big Ten. You are not the SEC. The ACC is kind of locked up. So it is a Pac-12 versus Big 12 battle right now. So that's huge. Obviously, they kind of draw first blood in this. And they take Colorado. It's a massive deal. It is a massive deal.
Josh, what's next, Josh? Obviously, at this point, I know there's a ton of rumors going on out there. I don't know if you have any sources, anything kind of telling you. What do you predict is next on the Big 12 plan of attack here?
Yeah, I spoke with some folks last night. So I know there's interest in Washington. There's obviously interest in Oregon. I'm not sure if you guys are pro wrestling fans at all, but the heist of the century is what they called it when Seth Rollins came in, pinned Roman Reigns, won the championship, cashed in the Money in the Bank. That's honestly what getting Washington or Oregon. I am back. I'm no longer locked on Pac-12, or Big 12, excuse me. I am now NW Pod 365.
That's a completely different.
That's a whole other line of
different topic
questions.
for a different day when y'all have a lot more time. But yeah, it'd be a heist of the century. Because here's the thing, like, I love the Big 12. I love all the brands they have. The two biggest brands out there, the Big 12 does not have, or that are out there, are Washington and Oregon. Those are two schools. Obviously, Washington and Seattle, a major competitor. They have been to the college ball playoff. And guys, Oregon is Nike's college school. They're Nike's college football school. To get one of those two brands would be a huge coup. To get them both would be massive. To get any other Pac-12 school would be a positive. So I saw Brett McMurphy's report today. They want to add at least 1 to 3 more schools. To me, I saw all the inclusion of G5 schools. No disrespect to those institutions, but you need to be targeting the Pac-12 schools. Strike while the iron is hot, wounded animal, blood in the water. Whatever analogy you want to use, now is the time to strike further, because those are the most valuable brands remaining. That's what adds more value to your conference. And also, once again, go back to the first point, weakens your TV competitor.
Josh, how quickly do you think this could move? Do you think we're weeks away from hearing about other schools? Are we after this season? How quickly do you think this could move with other schools potentially jumping ship?
It's a great question, because I think the one thing that we saw when Oregon and Washington made the jump was a lot of people were like, okay, what happens now? Is it going to be fast, right? And we saw the one thing that paid off for the Big 12 was persistence / patience, right? I think they kept that public pressure up. They also did one big thing. They moved that roadblock. Brett Yormark had some things he had to move. He had the TV deal done, got it done. Oklahoma and Texas out of the league was not a done deal. He had to negotiate that number. And there was some back and forth. ESPN reported, hey, they're going to take a break. Brett McMurphy said, no, they're staying on it. Lo and behold, they got that thing done. They got the number to get them out of the league early. They were able to set their guns, set their kind of gaze, if you will, on the Pac-12 and on attacking that. And that's what they did. They went and kind of attacked, and they kept up the public pressure. Not disinformation, but, I mean, they kept up the pressure to the right people and getting that stuff out there. And look, Colorado said, you know what? We've had enough. We have not seen enough. So I would say weeks, is kind of the long deadline, but people are saying this thing might move in days. And I have to think that's the way it is, because the Pac-12 does not have years anymore. They maybe had years last year. They're out of years. They're on the last year. And here's the thing. You have to recruit. You have to tell the families, the living rooms going in, who are we playing? Where are we playing? And do I have to jailbreak my Amazon Fire Stick to watch my child play football, right? Like, how do I consume my son, my daughter playing fill in XY sport? That's huge now. You have to defend that. Those are the people that you have to recruit to now. And the Pac-12 doesn't have that. So I would say that means days or weeks, in my opinion, for the next kind of domino to fall, whether it be an actual TV deal they get or for another school to defect.
You know that Oregon and Washington are going to be fine no matter how it shakes out. But if you're Oregon State and Washington State and Cal, you can't like any of this.
No. Yeah. Well, does Cal or Stanford want to play big Division I athletics? I think that's a big question. And look, here's the thing. Like, I'm not somebody who's like crap on the West Coast elites. I was born in San Francisco. I lived in Virginia. I've covered the Big 12. I have a little bit of everything kind of I live in Arkansas now. I got a little bit of everything, whether it be politically or, geographically, kind of in my DNA. And here's what I will say is, Oregon State and Washington State have great fan bases, and all they want, just like UCF fans, just like Oklahoma State fans, Iowa State fans, they want their schools to be able to compete at the highest level. That's all everybody wants. So I hope those schools end up okay. That being said, guys, it is an uphill climb for those schools. I know Colorado, as an addition, is an easier sell to Fox and ESPN to me. And let's be honest, I'd love to be altruistic and say, no, everybody matters, but that's what this is. The TV companies, they drove Oklahoma and Texas to the SEC. They drove UCLA and USC to the Big Ten. They drive Colorado, obviously the Big 12. They, I appreciate the comment. The TV companies, I love Brett Yormark. They don't drive the bus. The TV companies, the ones driving the bus. Oregon State and Washington State are the tougher sell. Who is the flagship program in the state of Colorado? Colorado is. Who is the flagship program in the state of Washington and Oregon? Neither of those schools are. And I think that is something that we have to acknowledge. And I don't like acknowledging it because I don't think that's the way college sports should work. But that is the honest reality. And I'm sure UCF fans, you all have an amazing fan base, a growing, massive number of alumni. But the power brokers still in the state, at least for now, reside in Tallahassee, Gainesville, and Miami. And so you have to understand the dynamics of those states, the dynamics of current television as it sits right now. Those schools, it's a bit of a tougher sell to the TV companies.
And what do you make of the flagship program in the state of Connecticut, UConn? How do they fit in all of this?
Yeah, this one's a tough sell for me, guys. So I was actually just speaking with John Kurtz over from KC Sports Network, does a great job covering Kansas State, does a great job covering the Big 12. And so he views, he views them as kind of half in, half out. And I am not there. I am not with UConn being half Power 5 school. I love basketball. It is my favorite sport to play. It's one of my favorite sports to watch, like how quick it is. I share Brett Yormark. He's a hoop head, guys. Let's be honest. He's not a college football guy. He's a hoop head. I share his enthusiasm for basketball. That being said, football drives the bus, and their football is not strong enough, and I don't think their football gets meaningfully better. I mean, maybe they do for playing in Texas a whole lot. They probably do maybe a little bit for having UCF being in Florida, but their football is not strong enough for me. And look, here's the thing. They had a wonderful 6-6 year last year. It was 6-7, I guess, in the end. But that's kind of an aberration. That's kind of an outlier for them. And Jim Mora Jr., God love him. Well done, buddy, for resurrecting what looked like, just a sinking ship of a career. Hell of a job. But it's a tougher sell for me because football is what drives this bus, and their football program is not really in any way, shape. Guys, last offseason, we're talking about them maybe, hey, do you make the drop down to FCS? Is that kind of the best thing for a UConn football at this point in time? Obviously, the answer is no, but their football is not good enough in a meaningful way, at least for me, to in good faith add them to the league. If everything else does not, if no Arizona, no Oregon, no Washington, no Utah, fine. And no Arizona State. If that's the case, maybe you consider that. Sure. But that's kind of, they're like way down the list for me, in my opinion.
All right, Josh. Well, obviously 2024 holds a lot of potential fun down the road, but let's zoom in on 2023. Obviously, the Big 12 this year opening up its arms to 4 new schools, including UCF. In your opinion, amongst those 4 schools, which one is best positioned to make some noise in the 2023 football season?
UCF. That is the short answer, and it's a combination of things. I think BYU is an interesting spot. I think they're the second team. Houston, I'm a lot worried about Houston and Dane Holgerson's position, and I don't think Cincinnati is in a good spot roster-wise. Coaching-wise, don't love Scott Satterfield backing into that job. So that's where I'd go on that angle. UCF, I'm a huge Gus Malzahn guy. I do not think Auburn should have fired him. I do not love the gimmicky motion, and you all, I'm sure you all have seen at this point. I don't love some of the direct snaps type stuff. They don't do as much as that. I think now we know.
What about the 64-yard field goal attempts?
That
happens.
So some in-game things for Gus. I think we can all admit, it's a little bit of a challenge. But I will say this: I think he likes being in Orlando. I think they're going to give him the resources. I think them as not just this season, but them as hey, look, you're not getting as much time at your SEC school to play. Come transfer in, or hey, look. Potentially, you want to go to an SEC school. Well, I can promise you a bit more playing time. They're in a great spot recruiting-wise in Florida. They're also now in a power conference. They're also about to play some games in Texas. They're also about to have an alumni base that's going to get a bit older and a bit wealthier. All of those things are very important, as we know, to building a successful program. And it comes to this season. I am not John Rice Plumlee's number one fan, but I will admit this. He is a very capable quarterback. He is a very good player. I will say this. I'm not as sold on him as a passer as I would like to be. I think it's a fair
We've heard
criticism
that
of him.
before.
I'm sure you all have heard of. I'm sure you all have heard enough of that.
It's come up before a time or two.
Yeah, the Louisville game. I mean, I was just like, man, I want it for the guy. I think he's got the ability. I will say though, swagger is one thing that young man has got plenty of. Notice in the Big 12 media days, that guy has a whole lot of big what energy. So shout out to him. But I think they are best positioned to have if there were any team to be like, oh, they're in the Big 12 title mix when November rolls around, it's going to be UCF in my opinion.
All right, well, Josh, if your good buddy Gus Malzahn called you tomorrow and said, hey, Josh, I'm joining the Big 12. You've covered this conference for a long time. What do I need to know? What do I need to know about this conference? What do I need to prepare for? What do I need to plan for? What advice would you give Gus if for some reason he called you and said, hey, Josh, I need your advice?
Well, Gus, pick up the phone, call. DMs are open. I would say this. I would say, so the week-to-week grind in this league is much different. Like even the SEC, so I went to Missouri. There is no Vanderbilt in this league, right? Like even that league has a bottom. This league does not have a bottom. Last year, I think West Virginia was probably the worst team in the league. They swept the Oklahoma schools, which if you told a West Virginia fan, hey, we swept the Oklahoma schools, they'd be like, that's probably a really good year for us. No, it was not. Iowa State was terrible. Actually, I think Iowa State was last place team last year. If Iowa State had scored 20 points in their first, I think it was 8 or 9 games, whatever it was, they would have won like 7 of them. Their defense was elite last season. It is that week-to-week grind in the Big 12 that, just no disrespect to the AAC, but like, you know what, you get a break sometimes, SMU, because they can't stop anybody from scoring. We saw that in the Houston game last year, right? Houston sometimes can't stop anybody from scoring, and all we saw that in the SMU game / Texas Tech game last year, right? Those games, and even the Kansas game, like that is the one thing about this league is when you play Kansas, who used to be the down team in the league, Kansas might have the best player on the field in every single game they play this year. They're going to have the most dynamic player on the field in Jalen Daniels. I mean, they probably will. That is where this league is. Every single week is going to present a different challenge. I think the one thing I don't have to tell Gus, though, is that Gus is familiar with that. That's the SEC. Every single SEC school brings something different. The Big 12, it's not quite, every team's got athletes, but every team does bring something different to the table, whether it be Mike Gundy as a coach, whether it be Jalen Daniels as a quarterback, whether it be the defense Iowa State has. That's the one thing I think UCF fans, and I think, you just can't prepare for that until you live it. Every single week presents a new and fun challenge, which I think is going to make this league a lot of fun this year.
Everyone talking about Texas going to win that Big 12. You buying or selling on the Longhorns?
You have to. I think you have to, because the way this league has worked the last 3 seasons, right? So last 3 years, 6 different teams have played for a Big 12 title: Oklahoma, Iowa State, Baylor, Oklahoma State, and then Kansas State, TCU. It's Texas's turn. It is Texas's turn. And this team, to me, is uniquely talented in a way that some everybody said, oh, they've got talent. Well, their offensive line, which Sark has put a massive investment in the recruiting, is a lot better. I think that it would take, and here's the thing, I actually don't know if it matters who plays quarterback for them. I'd be shocked if Malik Murphy and Quinn Ewers were both bad, but they've got so much talent on the outside. This to me is probably the second best receiving core in the entire country behind Ohio State's. They have got different kinds of guys who can different kinds of ways. Their running back room should still be good enough, even after losing Roshan Johnson and Bijan Robinson. And they have playmakers at all 3 levels of their defense, returning in the portal, all that stuff. So this is the year. Their schedule, if you look at it, it actually is pretty challenging compared to other Big 12 teams, but there is no doubt they are the most talented roster in this league, full stop. There's no doubt about that. I mentioned the Money in the Bank earlier. They have got that briefcase, gentlemen. They have to cash in because they're about to go to the SEC. This is their best chance at a conference title in maybe the last 10 years, save the one time they went to the conference title game. I guess that was 2018, 2019. This is their best shot right here.
Well, let's say Texas can't get out of its own way. Who do you see playing in that conference championship game?
K-State. I think K-State makes a lot of sense. Now, we've said this before about teams that have, had a great year, then come back the next season and where are they at? People looking at Texas Tech. obviously, too. I've got some questions about their quarterback health. Last year, they had 3 guys I liked, all of which, could be starters in this league. Devontae Smith, who is now at Devontae Smith, totally forgetting his name. Donovan Smith, at Houston now. Baron Morton, who's their backup, very, very talented young man. And Tyler Shuck, who is good but cannot keep himself on the field. Their defense looks like it's getting a little bit better. So I'm curious to see how that goes, but people are looking at Texas Tech. I'll believe it when I see it. I think TCU, weirdly enough, not a lot of buzz at Big 12 media days for a team that made the national title game last year. Pretty quiet. Very, very quiet on the TCU front at media days, them too. And then I think Baylor. I think the one thing that we forget sometimes is that guys get older and they get better. And I think Blake Shapen is in a good position to do that. I also think it's a staff that they were so good back in 2020 of evaluating what they did well or what they didn't do well and then translating that to success in 2021. Last year, a lot of examples of them kind of hitting that wall. I think once again, Dave Aranda is maybe the most self-reflective coach I've ever come across. I think he's very good at that. I would not be shocked at all. If it's not Texas, I'm going to go with Baylor and K-State in the Big 12 title game in 2023.
You heard it from Josh Neighbors. Josh, enjoyed having you. Good takes tonight. Come back, will you?
Anytime, gentlemen. Anytime. Go Knights. I also got myself a nice picture with Nitro at the Big 12 Media Days. Very thrilled to see him. And I'm thrilled to have UCF now in the Big 12.
Josh Neighbors, appreciate you. Thanks for being with us on Suns Live.
For sure.
All right, Adam. He's got big energy.
I like that guy. I like
big
energy. He can come back. He's got big blank energy. I like that guy.
Yeah, big energy. We talked about the start of training camp, preseason camp coming. Also, the Hall of Fame folks are getting together, deciding, who's going to get into that Athletics Hall of Fame. And you've taken on a campaign this week with tremendous talent. Alex Haynes, his candidacy. You had him on the show this week on the pod.
Yeah, I got to bang the drum here. So Alex Haynes was my favorite player when I was at UCF, right? Obviously Dante was the guy. Everyone knew Dante, but Alex Haynes was that dude. Like I feel like every play he was bailing us out. And then, as many of those in my age bracket, the NCAA football game comes out. And Alex Haynes, when you're playing on rookie mode, I mean, dude ran for like 200 yards every game for my team, right? So he was like my favorite player of all time. He's been a white whale to have on the show. We finally get a chance to get him on the show this week. And I'm doing research and I'm going through the record book. And I'm like, man, this guy's like number 2 in all-time rushing yards, number 5 in touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in one run game. That's still a record. It's been tied, but still a record. And I'm like, is he in the Hall of Fame? And I had to go search, and turns out he wasn't in the Hall of Fame. And I feel like that's criminal. So I decided to confront Alex on the show and tell him that I'm going to now be his mouthpiece. I am the Chris Haynes for Alex Haynes, for an NBA analogy, to get him into the Hall of Fame. And luckily, he seems like he's on board with that idea, Trace.
Comes down to you guys voting and sending the emails and letting them know, hey, we got one still out here that deserves to be in. You sort of got to let your peers put you in. So I don't know who checks the box on that, but I feel like I'm very deserving. Not only that, sort of started, other than Dante Culpepper, Todd Cleveland, and I want to say Gerard Jackson, I was probably the first guy to really get that momentum going of, big time high school football player to stay home. After I came, we had Doug Gabriel, Mike Sims Walker, Brandon Marshall. The guys started rolling in after that. At one time, they wasn't coming to UCF.
Makes a point.
Compelling case. I don't know who's on the committee, Trace. I'm not sure who's voting. I don't know
whole
how
mystery.
Votes. But Alex Haynes needs consideration. I mean, someone go look up his stats. I mean, we've had a lot of great running backs, and I think his name usually gets shuffled down the list of the recency bias of Greg McCrae's and AK's and the late Otis Anderson, right? What Bowser did for us, right? Kevin Smith, obviously, Latavius Murray. I feel like we kind of give Alex Haynes the shaft, and I think it's time to bring Alex Haynes to the Hall of Fame. That's my new crusade.
We will know soon. You know what? If not this class, I feel like at some point he will be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I feel like there's going to be a time where, you know, you're going to have to go through and look at the guys who really made this program. And if Alex Haynes' name doesn't come up, then we either got the wrong people in the room, which I don't think, by the way. I know that the Hall of Fame is certainly, I know the people leading that effort. And I think we got good people leading that effort. So I feel comfortable that the right names will be brought up in those conversations.
You know, one day if there's a Hall of Fame for UCF fans, our next guest has got to be in this. This is a hot ticket getting this guy. You know,
we got JP Gilbert?
No, not JP Gilbert. Dolly Drama stops by. We bring him in fresh off of his appearance with our friends at the 1012 Network and their podcast, a fan cast. Dolly, you shined last night in that gathering.
Ehos, good evening, good Thursday. Yeah, it was a great time with the 1012 podcast. The whole network has been great, just kind of getting used to some new fans, and it was good to talk some ball last night.
That's good. Well, we want to talk a little ball. We'll keep you here. Leo on assignment tonight, has some things going on, so we're glad you could hang out with us. We talked about Alex Haynes. Want to talk a little bit about, with preseason camp getting underway in just a couple of days, running backs. Dolly, how confident are you in what the Knights have on the roster at running game?
I love our running backs. Probably the deepest since we probably had them back when Latavius Murray was here. You got DeMarcus Bowman, RJ Harvey, Richardson is here. I think he's still here. Yeah. Just to kind of have a steady back. I'm all about, Gus loves running the ball. And I think we need to get some pressure off of JRP. So I'm very confident that the O-line is still kind of gelling for first year. But we'll see what happens. But that's probably the most confident piece of our offense that I'm confident in.
Adam, agree?
Yeah, I think so. Well, here's my question for Dolly. Dolly, you can only pick one, okay? Running back room, receiver room, or D-line room. Which do you have the most confidence in? You can only pick one.
Running back, because me and you can both hand off to a running back. The receivers,
like a champ, I could. Yeah.
I mean, we made our bread and butter with. Think Kevin Smith days. I mean, he made Kyle Israel look serviceable. We had running backs back then that could just move the ball. I mean, I don't know, man. New offense, new route tree. It's a little bit more exotic with Hinshaw in the mix. So D-line's a little bit inexperienced, but they're going to be going against O-lines as well. So let's see. Let's see. I definitely go with our running backs. Call me for
What's your profession? Do you mind sharing that in general category of what you do? We talked. Brian W. Peterson. He sells. What is it, Adam? He sells insurance or used cars.
I don't know if him and Dolly are coworkers, but
no. I work in advertising, so I do media sales and also do some freelance work as well on that side.
Adam, get him on the payroll. We need some sponsors.
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Dolly, where are you with JRP? I know you're often on the social medias with the angel in the outfield.
You see the eyes got a little wider there.
Yeah. Where are you on JRP? Confidence level right now, a scale of 1 to 10. Your confidence JRP going into 2023 is what?
7. And I think 7. I mean, he's a phenomenal person, great talent, has pieces. He needs to be a little bit less riskier with his body. I mean, he was with us last year, but you look at some marquee wins, he didn't finish a lot of games either. I think he's at a 7. I like his rapport with Hinshaw. I think if you put him in a situation to be successful, I think his QB coach before him wasn't really the guy trying to fit into what he was trying to do with Gus. But I also think, Gus needs to let him Hinshaw run the offense as well. That's the only little part that worries me. But I'm at a 7.
The guys around him.
Does he though, Trace?
If he starts running around,
because
he increases his injury risk, and
he also injured a shoulder, like throwing a Hail Mary 14 yards in the Navy game. But here's what concerns me is I don't need him to act like he's a pocket passer, right? I don't need him in the pocket. Like part of the ability of JRP to scare a defense is the fact that he could break out and run for 25 yards in a blink of an eye, right? If he tries to become a pocket passer, he limits that whole part of his game. So I don't want him busting a collarbone. I'm not saying he has to become a pocket passer, but I also need him to be like, back a little while. Hey, defense, like I may throw this, I may run this. You better figure it out. Last year, I felt like it was 1 read and go. I'm good for 2 reads and go this year, but I need to see some of that progression there. But I don't want him acting like he's the next Patrick Mahomes and he's going to sling the pill around the yard because I don't think that's a recipe for success.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's got to be a pocket passer. I'm just saying he can't. as you just said, look once and then just start running. I just don't think he can do that. He's got to trust his wide receivers and just take a breath and throw the ball. I mean, that's right. I mean, he just can't run all the time.
Breathing is important.
Well, I think he owes it to our receiving core as well. I mean, those guys have NFL aspirations, and I'd like to get somebody with 1,000 yards for the year. I mean, if Hinshaw can unlock that, that'd be huge.
I asked my poll question this week, what do you have more confidence in, offense or defense? Offense, 2-1 on this one. I'm surprised by that a little bit.
More confidence in the offense than the D?
Yeah, 2-1.
Yeah, I could see that with elevated competition for sure.
Adam?
Dolly, this is awkward because he's in front of us right now, and so that's awkward. But let's talk about Trace for a second. I don't know if you're aware, there's a new show out called Around the Kingdom. Trace Trelko, Eric Lopez. It's a hit across the nation, by the way. And if you watch this last episode, the one takeaway that I had as I watched it live while I was on it, obviously, and then watched it back is Trace Trelko has trust issues. He has very little trust in anything UCF related this upcoming season, Dolly. Where's your level of that's your trust issues? Well, I trust we're gonna suck, essentially, Trace. Dolly, where are you at with trusting? What do you trust about this 2023 football team?
Listen, I think we're going to provide them with all the tools they need with a great atmosphere at home. We kind of had our fall off after COVID. Things didn't come back. I thought we had a peak for Louisville. That just kind of faltered. I think there's going to be no games off that we don't have a great home field advantage at home. I'm confident in our guys just kind of putting it together and having that mental part of it. I feel like last year we had a kind of like a lot of hokey pokey in or out, not really kind of committed and not a lot of grit. Some mental toughness. ECU loss was terrible. Just kind of get down early in the chains. Navy was terrible after you just have a high from Memphis. So I think we put the confidence, the bounce house could be rocking. I think I had this last night as one of my hot takes. I could see us not losing a game at home just because it's kind of an easier schedule on the back end, 8 or lower in just the rankings with West Virginia and Houston at home. But I think our guys are going to be confident. I think, like I said, our running backs are going to be great. And I think there's some different juice on the O-line this year as well. Those guys call themselves the Hogs. There's just a little bit more kind of panache, and they got some cachet with them, with Metcalf and Bula coming in as well.
Hogs better than thick fellas, by the way? Is Hogs better than thick fellas?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adam, in fairness, I only had one that was a slight negative. I just said I trust in UCF's ability to struggle in Big 12 road games. That was what I trusted. The rest of them were positive takes.
Well, yeah. But you look at our road, or what were we last year, 2-3, and that's including the bowl game. I mean, we only left the state 3 times last year, not in the regular season, and we weren't that great. I mean, and we went to Tulane the first time. It was kind of a de facto home game with the amount of people that we brought over there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think if we get through the month of September, heading in with Boise State, that could be a good mental test. If we come back on the road and just kind of chill out and give Kansas State a game. Kansas State lost at Tulane in the month of September last year. They don't have their Deuce Vaughn, their killer running back. And I think a lot of people are going to overexert themselves on us too, just to kind of make a point for the newbies. And I think we're going to be a little bit more relaxed because expectations are there, but they're not, so max. Granted, we're the highest out of the newcomers, but I think we're up to the par. Adam,
what's your biggest trust in this 23 team?
I trust that D line. I really do. I think this D line is going to be special. I think with TMB and Hunter and Barber and whatever John Walker is going to be, I trust that D line is going to be stout. Now, can they get pressure as a unit? I think that's the thing I'm most curious about. But I trust that D line is going to be, the stalwart of our defense. I don't know that I trust the back 7, but I trust that front 4 is going to be up for the challenge of playing in the trenches. And I think that's one of the bigger items. Obviously, the trenches is where games are won a lot, right? And that's where we need some depth. I think our D line is going to be able to go toe to toe with a lot of lines. Dolly, here's my question for you: if I got my good friend, let's say I got Drew Belani from Urban Nooks and Poor Choice to sponsor you to go to one road trip this year, what road trip would you want to go? So, all expenses paid. Drew Belani, thanks very much for this, by the way. Poor Choice, Urban Nooks is going to send Dolly on the road. What one game do you want to go to?
I think probably be Kansas State, just kind of our first road game for. Oklahoma's kind of has its own kind of happenings, but I've been on the road a lot for some games and just some tough losses. Pitt when the streak got broke, and there's the last real kind of blowout win that we had was I think it was 2017 in Maryland, and we just drilled them like 38-10. That was amazing. But I probably do Kansas State, and probably the nicest fans that I've seen on Twitter as well, that have been welcoming to us.
Am I going to see you in Lubbock?
That's another thing too. I was talking about last night. Usually be do or die for September for us. We'd be kind of miffed if we didn't go crazy out of conference. But the great thing is we can kind of see how the season unfolds. And, I was looking at flights even for Cincy, it's like $100 round trip. And Lubbock just didn't get so ridiculous, $500 or $600. It was, $200 or $300 connecting to Dallas. But yeah, if that's in play and they're threatening as well, absolutely.
So what's your lack of trust? What do you not have a lot of trust in this team at this point?
I just think Gus, here's the thing. I think Gus, it was night and day seeing Gus and Timo just kind of at Big 12 media days. I feel like they're back in their quote unquote, as the kids say, back in their bag, just have that moxie. I think Gus would go to these pressers that are really small. They were, in backroom closets, and he's used to the SEC stage and just kind of having a bigger presser and having more local media there that cares about that. That is their Super Bowl. And I think he solved all other things a little bit kind of hokey pokey. So if he's in, these bigger stages, I think he elevates, he'll be back. But I think just on the road is a little bit scary. I mean, what's our biggest road game that we've ever had is probably Cincinnati. We haven't won in Cincinnati since the 17th season. They're going to be gunning for us. I think, they want to make an example of the newbies on the block. We've definitely been mouthy for the last half decade. So,
UCF fans?
Yeah, imagine that. But I just think on the road, do we have the mental fortitude of just, back in the day, like a 2013 Louisville, where you're down 3 touchdowns, you have no business being there, and you come back. Do we have that kind of grit within us? And I think we have that with the running backs, with the belief if JRP can kind of unlock himself, the sky's the limit. And we're in a sweet spot. I mean, the Big 12 championship is always that kind of 5 to 8 spot. And we're right there.
Some news and notes. You'll stick around, maybe answer some mailbag questions with us?
Absolutely.
All right, news and notes. Gus finally reunited with Bobby Bentley. Brought him on board as an analyst. Some talk of that over the last couple of years. He had been with Gus at Auburn for a couple of seasons. Most recently, wide receiver coach, passing game coordinator over in Tampa. Congratulations to Josh Sitton, induction into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. Has he been a guest on the Suns pod out?
He's not. No, he's pretty reclusive, actually. I've tried a few times.
Maybe Alex Haynes can, now that you've gotten that one. He opened up the doors for you. And I got busy at work, Dolly, so I didn't get to jar with you. And I know we are fundamentally opposed on this, but Penny Hardaway announcing to reporters today that Wichita State transfer once a night, not quite a night, Jaquan.
Maybe never a night. He never really enrolled. I don't know what happened there. Did he just was he just hanging out in the dorm one day and we thought he was playing for us? I need more details here.
Dolly, before we got on, Adam and I were talking. What do you want Johnny to do? What is it you want him to do with these guys?
Just have a little bit of a backbone.
I mean, what does that mean to you? I mean, what does it mean literally? What do you want him to do? Deny it? Can he deny it? The guy's not actually taking classes, so he can go do whatever he wants.
It was threefold. Each of the 3 situations that we've had this calendar year have been their own specific and unique details. I mean, heart is one thing. You can't deny that he does not have an eye for talent. You have blue bloods that are going after him. But I'm telling you right now, I mean, the Lithuanian player that we just let go out of his intent to go to interconference kind of team is ridiculous. And this
so you would, if you would advocate if he had the power to deny it, and that would be the reputation then for other transfers, other recruits.
He's only going to be here for another year or 2. So what's the point? And he just does things just kind of, he's quiet quitting. It feels like it's just kind of like, oh, I guess so. We have our expectations. We come out at 14th in the league. He just doesn't have any.
There's nowhere to go but up from 14.
He's just very lame. His tweets. I mean, we can go the whole thing, but you know how he is. His tweets look like they're getting written for him. Just like a chat GPT of how to be a head coach. It's just very annoying.
Hey, they're going to Italy though. That's
he'll probably let him go too, even though he's going to Memphis.
All right, that might be line of the night. A little more around the kingdom before we open up the mailbag. Women's soccer announces its non-con schedule. Exhibition game, Miami, August 6th, so very soon. FSU, they've got one on August 11th. August 17th, Purdue. Matches at Georgia and Penn State. They welcome the Cows, so they are a program at UCF that has scheduled the team from Tampa. Men's soccer, now proud members of the Sun Belt. They host Jacksonville August 12th in an exhibition. Season opener is August 24th at Clemson. And their first Sun Belt match is against West Virginia of the Big 12 on September 15th. And then welcome back former night catcher Cassidy Brewer. She joins Cindy Ball Malone staff. We talked about Around the Kingdom, another successful episode, Adam, this week. Elo and I really getting into it, especially on these trust issues.
Yeah, after getting past your lack of trust issues, which was hot take number one. Hot take number two was this, Trace. You got dragged for this one. UCF Mike, not a fan of this take.
And I feel like I'm throwing money away going to Lubbock, but I got to see Prairie Dog Town. But I think that is going to be the highlight of that trip. I don't think they have any chance winning at Texas Tech, a dark horse candidate perhaps in the Big 12. So I think they have no chance. To me, that is the most hostile, right up there with Oklahoma. I think Texas Tech is a problem. Dolly, what do you say?
Trust issues and skirt of Lubbock. I don't know what's going on with you, Trace.
I mean, Texas Tech is. I mean, they're building a little monster. I think that's going to be a good rivalry for us. But McGuire is recruited at a high level. I think they're top 25 now. But yeah, it gets weird in West Texas.
Around the Kingdom. Find it on the Sun's YouTube channel. New episodes midweek, every week. I want to do a big shout out to Kendall and Luke, big fans of the Sons of UCF. Thanks for watching, guys. All right, Dolly, what do you know? What this is mailbag time? Do you know the line that comes in every week at this time? Can you do your best Brian W. Peterson impression?
It's that time again.
You two are in for a treat. Neither one of you know this. For the first time ever. Here you go.
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
A new and improved, dressed up, sophisticated Brian W. Peterson.
But you need those sunglasses.
It sounds the exact same every time. I swear to God. I don't know how he does it.
And we begin with Brian asking, do you have more fun on Suns Live or Around the Kingdom? Very different shows. Adam, what about you? You're behind the scenes on it. I mean, you're more involved in this one, but do you like producing?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk when I run the Kingdom, so I guess
talk?
this one. I mean, I got to push a lot of buttons. You and Elo yell at each other, and then I don't. I mean, it's more fun watching you guys yell at each other. It's like mom and dad fighting at the dinner table.
At Mr. Matt Dolan, his question for the Brian Wild Eyes Peterson Golden Memorial Mailbag: who's the worst, Kliakov or Oresko? Dolly, which commissioner do you not want the most?
Oresko. I think Kliakov, he's just out of his league, but Oresko just doubled down on his stupidity. Over.
By the way, he's funny at the AC Media Days. We got to get rid of these Power 5. Wasn't he touting Power 6? Didn't he have signage made and all that? Now he doesn't like it.
No, he's a buffoon.
Who?
Yeah,
I moved on from Mike Oresko. Yeah, I moved
exactly.
At the SOTG, will ESPN's financial troubles eventually impact college conference coffers? I push back on that question. I don't think ESPN has any financial troubles. They're just not making as much money as they want. They're not poor. But
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen their balance sheet of late, but I don't think we're starting to go fund me for ESPN anytime soon, right? Obviously, they've paid a lot of money for live rights fees, and at some point, just like anything, that bubble's going to have a bit of a softening. But I don't know that they're going to be the driving factor. What's going to be the factor is stuff like where the Big 12 gets to the table first, right? Now that may be where you see a shift. Is if you get an offer and you're not able to take that offer, you want to play around like the Pac-12 does. You might be on the CW right after Live Golf. So I think that's where maybe ESPN will play a factor. Like, hey, we got 1.2 billion we're going to spend. When we're spending that, when that's done, we're done. So I don't know. That means that they're poor. It's just that they're only going to spend a certain amount of cash. And if you're not able to take that cash, then enjoy reruns of Dawson's Creek right after that Pac-12 After Dark.
Well, there's a throwback call right there.
I actually never liked Dawson's Creek. I was a 90210 guy.
Yeah, I would have thought you referenced 90210.
But even 90210 would do the CW. So we're good.
What about you, Dolly? What do you think of ESPN's financial woes and the impact on its ties to college conferences?
No, I think the most important thing is you have to see the most valuable media property now is going to be live sports, and I think Disney's kind of feeling it that they don't need to produce 45 Marvel movies a year anymore either. They're kind of dialing it back on that. So live sports are going to be huge, with Oculus and how people watch that live. So I think if we can provide a good product in almost any day of the week, I think we're in a good spot.
Late question from Eric Edwards. Let me read it off my phone. He said he asked us a couple
off
weeks
the script
ago.
here, Chris. Jesus. All right, go ahead.
Well, they sent it in late. I saw it.
I mean, don't we have a deadline on these things? Or what are you doing?
Apparently not, because I read their questions after they come in. He asked about the changing of the name and Roman numerals and what would you do with the Big 12 logo. He goes, what would you do with the name of the conference if it's 14 or 16? What do you think he does with that? Because that's now a Brett Yormark thing. He wants to rebrand in some meaningful way. What is he going to do here? Is he going to keep numbers that don't match the number of schools in the conference? Or does he, I mean, he can't be the American two here.
I think I called it. He was with the Brooklyn Nets. He had to get away from that red and white. I didn't like that either. It's a little bit more of a grayscale with kind of a default, the color sparse. But I looked it up. If we get Oregon and Washington, how we're sitting right now, it'd be having the Big 12 would stand for a footprint in 12 states, which could be kind of a different moniker. But I think there's some equity in there. Big 12 isn't tied regionally like the ACC or the Pac-12 or the SEC. So it can kind of, it could be superfluous, but I wouldn't go too crazy. The Roman numerals are there. I think the Roman, with the curved logo, it looks good on polos and can be scaled. So don't mess too much with a good thing.
Adam, what do you want to do with it?
Listen, he's the branding marketing expert. I'm gonna go with Dolly on this one. I did not know the 12 state situation. That's actually a pretty cool fact. So I'm gonna stick with the branding marketing guy. Dolly knows better than I do on that.
Either of you seen Oppenheimer? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Ethan of 126. Oppenheimer dealt with the weight of his creation, the atomic bomb, quoting, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Are there any past UCF decisions not worth the backlash?" Meaning the national championship thing, no 2-for-1s, no Central Florida Golden Knights, the patch. What was not worth the backlash? It's a good question. Interesting question.
So does this pre-assume that there was backlash over something, right?
There was backlash over all of those that he.
No, I agree. And I think that a lot of the tie in there, I think Keith Tribble, right, is probably the decision. Whomever signed his employment contract is probably the one decision that you look back and go, hey, that didn't make a ton of sense. I'd also throw in there, he asked if we had something on our own. At some point, we as a athletic department just decided not to invest in basketball. Whenever that was, there was a decision that was made that we're not going to put our money in that. And I think we're seeing the fruits of that labor now, where you and Dolly Trace are suiting up to play against Kansas this upcoming season.
Well, there's only so much money, right? And they poured it into football. So that decision's been made over multiple administrations. And what's going to change that decision?
Dolly winning the Powerball?
Dolly, you got one? What was not worth the backlash?
I mean, I think everything happens for a reason. You do the butterfly effect too many times and you just kind of standing there. You don't have any action. I think, I haven't seen the movie, but just on a positive side, if we didn't challenge that bowl ban in 2013, there's a lot of things that don't happen now. I think that kind of just gave us our moxie that we could be on the scene. And Hit was a major proponent in that with O'Leary. I mean, we don't get that bowl year, and even keeping on 15. If we were not just so desperate in the pits that year, it's a lot of things that doesn't happen. Scott Frost coming right thereafter. So just kind of let it roll how it is. But I don't think I'd probably go with Adam on this one for basketball, since I'm pretty hot on that right now.
At Gold Rush 97, why are so many fans concerned with the defense? DL, best in school history, SEC linebacker coming in, projected first round playing corner. Adam, that's a big one for you. You keep mentioning it. You're concerned, especially with the secondary.
Yeah, we just haven't seen those guys play together, right? Individually, they're certainly talent. We haven't seen them play together, and we've seen all of 4 quarters of Addison Williams coordinated defense. So I think that's where my concern comes from. I think we had a comment earlier asking if the DBs had learned how to not play 16 yards off the ball, right? I think there's a lot of things we have to figure out. So I think we have talent there. Can they all play together, and is the scheme going to complement the talent? That's where my concern comes from.
Yeah, I mean, I think our defensive line has immense talent, but I'm excited about the corners that we have, but it's all about gelling and fit and just kind of having that sixth sense. I mean, our most opportunistic defenses were those 17 and 18 years where those guys just had literally, one team, one heartbeat. So you got to see it gel. Talk to me October 1st. At
Hugh C. Heff, if you could pay for your season tickets by selling your tickets to the historic Baylor game, would you do it?
No. if you were there for that first Texas game, I think that's kind of cool that we were already in the Big 12 when we're not in the Big 12, opening up that day. The rain delay, just kind of how that rain opened up, came down on everybody and just cooled everything off. And at the same time, there wasn't really any smartphones. It was a memory that's kind of baked in. So
Which
glad
game
I
are
was
you talking about here?
Texas when they opened up the stadium.
Baylor, historic Baylor game.
No, I'm saying,
Oh.
I'm saying, I'm glad that I was there for that.
I
So
got you.
if I wasn't there for the Baylor game, I'd feel like I missed out.
My financial advisor, Brian Peterson, says no, so I'll go with him.
At blackgold_Ed, what UCF bar are you recommending Big 12 fans visit? Dolly, you're out every night. Where do you go? We kept you in tonight, and you were in last night. Well, you were in for half an hour last night, and then you could have gone out.
No, you got to go out in the downtown to Poor Choice and Drew Balani. You try that out. No,
but he's really bucking for that trip.
Yeah, no, I don't know if that's real or fake, so I'm going to keep it going. No, you have to. Downtown. There's some good stuff. It's not the downtown of old, but some daytime hangs and the breweries down there. I think if you're on the east side of town, if you're a little bit younger, it makes sense. But there's some good stuff all around.
My guy at Don't Fuck Up 23. If you had to add 2 G5 teams to the Big 12, what's the first condiment you put on your sandwich? This is the type of question you get. He direct messaged me. He said, don't take me seriously. And I said, I don't.
Look, my guy Falk is a great guy. Here, I don't know what condiment qualifies for. Here's low key underrated for me. What I like to put on sandwich: jalapeno potato chips. The crunch, a little bit of the heat, a little bit of the seasoning. I don't know if that's a condiment, but most sandwiches give me some jalapeno potato chips.
Yeah, some mayo. That pool sandwich that you make, the ham and cheese with some ruffles on it, a little bit of mayo. It's perfect.
Oh yeah.
Did you see, speaking of condiments, that Skittles came out with like yellow mustard Skittles this week as a promotional?
Well, hold the phone, Trace. With UCF Mike, breaking news. I saw Mountain Dew came out with hot dogs. There's like a Mountain Dew flavored hot dog pack. I don't know if they're in the cabanas this year, but I need a UCF Mike reviewed. They're not in the cabanas?
This is maybe the best question we've ever gotten right here at Dolly_drama. You have the Ox Gordon Light Show for one song of your choice at the Bounce House. What you playing, Adam?
All right, I really thought about this one, Dolly.
Dolly onto the show.
No, I really thought about this one, and I'm going to play off the Gus Malzahn theme here. And I think most people know the song. I'm going to go with "Boom" by P.O.D. Old school song back in the day. They yelled "boom" really loud. I think we've got that with Colton Boomer. Give me "Boom" by P.O.D. I think we could get some noise cranked up in the crowd for that.
Dolly, what's your choice?
I'm going to do some hip hop. Dr. Dre next episode, and that sound system with the lights, it'd be incredible.
You're not going to choose Terry's song?
No, not maybe for a slideshow for my parents or something, but not for.
What was that song? What was the song that the Hassle in My Castle? What was that? Remember that song?
Yeah, from Nightmare. He was on the Dungeon
Nightmare.
for a while. Yeah. I'll look it up. I'll tweet it. It was.
I think
solid.
they need to bring that back.
I get away from the medieval theme. Just let's keep it knights, but current.
At Lonely Bee UCF, what's more exciting for a recruit, light bulbs or Lazy River? Money. The answer is money, but Lazy River.
Yeah.
I'll go light bulbs. What the heck? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's more fan service there. I don't think the kids on the field care. At Cap Vij1, you're stuck on a deserted island with a fan of one team other than UCF in the Big 12. Who is it? Dolly, you know a couple more people now after your appearance on the 10-12 show.
Actually, Dolly, I have an offshoot question. UCF Mike is chiming in from locations unknown. He wants to know, did you score any digits last night? Allison and Brittany seem to have really been digging Dolly drama. Any update you want to give us on that?
That was not the first time I met either of them. So.
Oh, hello. All right, going to extend the show here a couple of minutes. Do tell. Continue.
No. Good fans, though. Good fans.
There needs to be more to that.
What was the question? I'm going to go with BYU fans because I feel like BYU fans, they can't lie to me. They can't be dishonest. So if I'm on a deserted island, like they can't steal my stuff, right? That's against the rules. So I feel like I have an advantage because I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And I feel like the BYU fan would be too nice, and I could probably win that struggle. So give me BYU.
Kansas State. I would do Kansas State. They're kind of they're like they're most like us in the leftover 8.
What about Cyclone Larry made a return this week on social media?
Love that guy. I thought he was. I was a little worried. I thought something legit happened, but
Somebody posted he had died, and then he hadn't been online for weeks.
There's a group chat with like across the league, and they're like, yeah, he does this every season. He just takes a break. So it's pretty funny. It's a great day to come back.
It was.
Yeah.
Finally, congratulations. 236 UCF student athletes made the all academic team in that old conference, the AAC. Knights combined 3.35 GPA, third highest in program history. Dolly, your final GPA at UCF, higher or lower?
Higher. I think it was a 3.89.
Well, brag, why don't you?
Just have it.
Adam, 3 higher or lower?
So trick question. My bachelor's, I think, at a 3.7, and my master's, I think, at a 3.8. So higher for both. Impressive,
gentlemen. I want to thank Josh Neighbors for joining us to talk Big 12 football. Dolly, thanks for hanging out with us in Leo's absence, and UCF Mike chiming in as well. Back with another pod this week, Adam, coming up?
Yeah, sure. Actually, yes. No, I lie. We have two, not one, but two really, really good guests, two legendary names in UCF sports history. So stay tuned for that.
Very awesome. Good. That's good tease. And then preseason camp will get underway. So we'll have those 10-second clips to talk about. Follow me on Twitter @SignPez for all of that. I want to thank you, Adam. Thank you, Dolly, for being with us. And thank you for watching. I'm Trace Trolko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
I'm Dante Culpepper. Thanks for watching the Sons of UCF.
Legend. Love